The boy was about to be eaten, when suddenly a beam of light shot in, and Ikaris burned the monster to death. But another monster appeared behind the boy. Ikaris saved him, and then quickly transported the people on the shore to safety. The Eternals also joined the battle. Kingo can quickly gather energy and launch it instantaneously. Gilgamesh possesses immense strength. The warrior goddess Athena can conjure various weapons and can deal with the deviants. A few people descended from the domo. Sprite can create illusions. The god of technology Phastos is responsible for imparting knowledge to humanity. Druig uses mind control to calm the crowd. Leader Ajax serves as the team's reserve. Finally, the protagonist Circe appears. She can transmute inanimate matter. Then, she conjured a golden dagger and handed it to the boy. The introductions of all the Eternals were complete. In a blink, we arrive in modern London, where Circe gazes at the dagger on the screen. She took a photo to post on her social media. Suddenly, her phone rang, and Circe realized she was late for work. When she arrived, her boyfriend Dane was stalling for her.
I completely ran out of things to say, and these kids make me nervous.
During the lecture, an earthquake struck, and a girl hid in the corner. She narrowly avoided being crushed by a boulder, but fortunately, Circe turned the rocks into sand. She successfully saved the girl. In the evening, she took her boyfriend to a bar, with Sprite following along. She hated her childlike body, and used her illusions to transform into an adult woman to attract men. At this moment, Circe and her boyfriend arrived in the stairwell, where Dane proposed cohabitation. As an Eternal, Circe did not agree to his proposal. Soon after, the three took a walk by the river, with danger silently approaching. The deviants returned, leaping out of the water to launch an attack. Circe used magic to trap the monsters, but soon they broke free. To protect her boyfriend, Circe decided to lure the monsters away. The two climbed in scaled walls. While Sprite covered Circe, she created numerous duplicates, but the deviants could identify her true form. Sprite was knocked to the ground. In a critical moment, Ikaris arrived, but this time, the deviants were particularly twisted. Possessing immense combat strength, a large bus charged towards the three, and Circe raised her hand to create an impressive scene. Ikaris had a high attack power, and severely injured the deviants. However, this deviant could heal itself, and after its wounds mended, it turned and jumped back into the river to escape. After the battle, Circe revealed the truth to her boyfriend. The deviants should have been eradicated 5 centuries ago. Now, the deviants have resurfaced, discussing matters concerning Ikaris. The scene shifts to Sprite discussing the incident. As the deviants return once more, they have become even more powerful, so they need to reunite the Eternals to face the challenges ahead. The time is set in 575 BC, when Babylon is besieged by the deviants. The Eternals are protecting the human city. Gilgamesh ends the battle with a single punch. Then, Ajax summoned a small orb to report to the celestial Erishem. At the same time, Ajax raised a question about whether humans, being different from other species, should terminate their creation mission, but the celestial did not care, and Erishem instructed her to continue the mission. Thus, she returned to the domo to gather everyone. Phastos invented the steam engine, but it was not yet ripe for humanity. He had to resort to using a plow instead. Circe mentioned that a tribe needed to cultivate the land. That night, Sprite held a class for humans. Ikaris is a follower of Arism, and his only concern is work. But with Ajax's encouragement, he confessed to Circe, and their relationship grew closer. Back to the present, the three arrived at Ajax's residence, only to find no one there. Suddenly, they saw a corpse lying in the backyard. The corpse had been there for a long time, and as they approached, they realized it was Ajax. Her healing ability had been taken by the deviants. It was the first time an Eternal had died in 7,000 years. Ajax played the parental role among the Eternals. Suddenly, a small orb flew out of her body and floated towards Circe. Circe encountered Erishem, but she only spoke one sentence. Circe returned to reality and informed the two of what had happened. Ikaris suggested that the Erishem she saw might also be a result of eternal madness. It turned out that hundreds of years ago, the Eternals were about to eradicate the deviants. At this time, humanity had already invented firearms, and wars frequently broke out. Druig wanted to control humanity to stop the wars, but he was stopped by Ajax. The Eternals would not interfere in the internal development of humanity. he turned to blame Phastos, claiming that technology brought war to humanity. Athena watched the argument, and the outbreak of war. 7,000 years of memories manifested as eternal madness, causing her to lose control and injure the Eternals. Ultimately, Athena was knocked unconscious by Gilgamesh. Ajak told Athena that she needed to seek Erishem to erase her memories. Otherwise, eternal madness could flare up again. Druig couldn't hold back any longer, and questioned Ajak. They had followed her for over 7,000 years, and now the situation had turned into humans killing each other. The Eternals were also in danger. He turned and walked towards the door, using his mind to control humans to stop the war. Gilgamesh suggested that he wanted to live alone with Athena. He could guarantee the safety of both himself and Athena. Gilgamesh requested that her memories not be erased. Ajak agreed and dismissed everyone. The deviants were now dead, and they could live for themselves. The others were shocked, but Kingo understood her reasoning. The scene shifts to him filming a movie. He was very happy to see them. Sprite signaled for a private conversation, but he said the assistant was not an outsider. They discussed together, and Kingo learned that Ajak's death was very tragic. The deviants had reappeared, and to resolve the crisis, he had to abandon filming. Then, they took a plane to search for Gilgamesh and Athena. Upon arriving at their destination, they found that there were also deviants there. Meanwhile, Gilgamesh was baking a pie.
What took you so long?
Ikaris informed Gilgamesh of the leader's death, and he was deeply saddened. He tore apart the baking tray. On the other side, Athena was meditating under a tree, drawing a portrait of Erishem. The deviant's attack triggered her eternal madness. Athena picked up a weapon and attacked Gilgamesh. She murmured the name of the celestial map, Celestial 6. Sprite conjured an illusion to wake her up. The group returned home, enjoying the lunch that Gilgamesh had prepared. They talked about previous events, noting how Thor often followed Kingo, but now that Captain America had retired, and Iron Man had sacrificed himself, who could lead the Avengers? Then, Gilgamesh joked that the Celestials had no choice. Ikaris leads the Eternals. Cersei was affected, and stepped outside for some fresh air. Cersei looked at the image Athena had drawn, and Gilgamesh told her that this was the Celestial 6 Athena had mentioned. Athena said she had once lived there, but a disaster took everyone's lives. At this moment, Cersei said she had been chosen as a leader, but she didn't know how to contact Erishem. Gilgamesh encouraged Cersei, telling her that she needed to listen. This method proved effective, and Cersei successfully met Erishem. She informed him of the recent events. Cersei learned an important piece of information. A new celestial group must be born every billion years. Earth was chosen to give birth to the celestial Tiamat. The birth of celestials requires intelligent energy, and the deviants' slaughter of humans delays their emergence. But now, the deviants no longer needed to be a concern. Erishem demonstrated the role of the celestial group, stating that the universe relies on their operation. Without the Celestials, the universe would fall into silence. Olympia is also an illusion. Erishem created the Eternals to carry out various tasks. There are various Eternals here, and after each task is completed, their memories are erased. They are sent to new planets to carry out tasks, while the memories of those tasks are stored for studying the deviants. Because the deviants are also a creation of Erishem. Originally, they were designed to eliminate predators on planets. Unexpectedly, they became the predators that hunted humans. Thus, he created the Eternals to correct the error. Afterwards, Cersei shared this information with the others. The group decided to gather the Eternals to discuss how to resolve the issue. The scene shifts as they arrive at Druig's tribe. Druig protected humanity and learned of the recent events. Druig was very shocked and chose a different path from them. Druig refused to help them, maintaining a silent stance. Cersei and Ikaris were discussing love. Ikaris wanted to tell her something. Suddenly, a deviant flew in and snatched Ikaris away. Fortunately, Kingo arrived just in time and saved Cersei. Cersei escorted the crowd to a warehouse and transformed the door into crystal. On Ikaris' side, he had just killed a small monster when he was suddenly ambushed by the deviant leader. Gilgamesh knocked the leader away, but Athena's eternal madness began to flare up again. Druig controlled the crowd and shot at the monsters, but human weapons could not harm them. Cersei transformed the roots of a giant tree into water, and then turned the trunk into crystal, successfully subduing the monster. The monsters were closing in when Ikaris arrived to turn the tide, but the deviants had evolved intelligence, and one pressed down on his head, limiting his light output. Cersei rushed in to assist, and at a critical moment, she transformed the deviant into a tree. Her connection with Erishem made her even stronger. On the other side, an unexpected incident occurred. Thena was targeted by the deviant leader. Gilgamesh was ambushed. While trying to protect Thena, the leader absorbed power and transformed into human form.
Arisham used us. We just wanted to survive.
And by the time they arrived, Gilgamesh was already dead. Unexpectedly, Gilgamesh died midway through the film. Thena scattered his ashes in the lake, and the others, unable to grieve, set off to find the remaining members. The scene shifts to a small town, where Phastos has started a family. His son recognized Ikaris as a superpowered being. He returned home to talk, and Phastos did not want to leave with them. Phastos stated that he hadn't used his powers in a long time.
What's this even made of? Vibranium?
He had used his powers to create a shelter. At this moment, his husband stepped out. He told Phastos that, while there was still time, he should go save the world. Phastos was persuaded by him, and after lulling his child to sleep, he left with the two. The scene shifts as the group arrives in Iraq. Phastos activated the Domo, and suddenly he discovered that Makari had been on the ship all along. It was stocked with a large number of artifacts. After discussion, the group decided to prevent the celestial emergence. Phastos initiated the program and designed a bracelet. The bracelet could concentrate the powers of the Eternals into one individual. Druid could keep the Celestials asleep, and then he would send humanity to another planet. However, the group's opinions were divided. Circe and Ikaris deferred to each other, and they could not reach an agreement. But Ikaris was not as good as he appeared. 6 days ago, he had arrived at Ajak's residence. Ikaris learned that the celestial emergence was only 7 days away. However, Ajak wanted to save humanity. Years ago, Thanos wiped out half of all life in the universe, and humanity wanted to bring those people back. Having traveled in the human world for a long time, she had witnessed the goodness of humanity. Long ago, Ajak had told Ikaris about the actions of the Celestials. Ikaris was influenced by her, and firmly believed in the celestial path. To ensure the celestial emergence went smoothly, Ikaris sent Ajak to the Deviants. She was thrown off a cliff, and Ajak was killed by the Deviants. Then her body was brought back to their residence. The group discovered that she had been killed by the Deviants, and they would hunt the Deviants down. The group would then forget about the celestial emergence. But now circumstances had changed, and he pondered life in the canyon. Circe sensed something was wrong, and sought to talk to him, but their views were different. Ikaris now had only one wish, that after everything ended, he could remember Circe. On the way back, Circe sensed that the celestial emergence had begun, but the bracelet was not completed. Phastos asked Makari to locate the site of the celestial emergence. On the other side, Ikaris donned his battle suit. He told Circe that he didn't want to do it this way. Then he went to the hall. Ikaris laid it all bare, and shattered the bracelet. Only then did the group realize he had been acting all along, and he might have killed Ajak. Kingo condemned him for betraying the family, and a conflict erupted. They quarreled and disbanded, while Sprite followed Ikaris as he left. Kingo believed in the celestial plan, and that the birth of other life was right, so he departed alone. He would not help anyone, but humanity was not in a desperate situation. They had a backup plan. Circe had once turned a deviant into a tree, which had been impossible before. They aimed to unite their powers to kill Tiamat, but Circe only wanted to put the Celestial to sleep. She didn't want to kill him. At this moment, Phastos found her and asked for the orb that connected Circe and Erishem. The orb could unify their wills. He took out the orb, decomposed it, and reassembled it into a new bracelet. The remaining few donned their battle suits, and wore the new bracelets. Then, they piloted the ship to the site of the celestial emergence. Thena stayed on the ship to hold off Ikaris. The three arrived at the emergence site, and began to connect, channeling energy into Druig. He successfully delayed the celestial emergence. Ikaris noticed a glow emanating from Thena. She rushed out of the ship to stop Druig. Thena lifted Druig into the air, and struck the ground with light. Immediately after, she destroyed the ship. Makari rescued the two, and then she fought Ikaris. At this moment, a volcano erupted, and debris began to fall. Circe observed the scene before her, and made a decision. Circe instructed a few to cover her. She approached the celestial Tiamat. Then, the group engaged in battle with Ikaris. Suddenly, the deviant leader joined the fray. The group worked together to drive it into a cave. Then, Phastos bound Ikaris to the ground. Thena, filled with a desire for vengeance, entered the cave to fight the deviants, but the enemy was powerful, and it used Gilgamesh's voice. to provoke Thena's eternal madness. It bound Thena, preparing to absorb her power. Unexpectedly, Thena had already recovered. She had always remembered Gilgamesh's love. Meanwhile, Cersei suddenly saw Jack. She realized it was an illusion created by Sprite. However, Sprite appeared behind her and stabbed her. Fortunately, Druid was not dead. He arrived and knocked Sprite unconscious. Now, only Cersei could kill the Celestial. The Celestial emergence had begun, and Tiamat's body was exposed before Thena. She gathered energy in her hands, preparing to turn Tiamat into a snowman. Ikaris broke free of his binds to stop her, but he could not attack his beloved. Beautiful memories flooded his mind, and he could only let Cersei transform the Celestial. Suddenly, Cersei flew into the sky. Immediately after, the other Eternals also soared into the air. Auras manifested around them, and energy converged onto Cersei. The immense energy killed Tiamat. Ikaris watched it all and fell into self-blame. Ikaris looked up and charged toward the sun. Cersei told everyone that, the moment she touched Tiamat, he joined the unified will. The Eternals survived this way. When the Celestial was born, with her remaining energy, Cersei transformed Sprite back into a human. Then, they went to Phastos' home. Thena appeared to have recovered, but she wasn't quite normal. Life returned to normal for everyone. Druid reconciled with Phastos. Macquarie asked him, if they found the other Eternals, would everyone accept the truth? Druid gave him an affirmative answer. Then, the two left with Thena on the ship. The rest remained on Earth. Cersei's boyfriend found her to confess, then said there was a secret he hadn't told her. Suddenly, Cersei froze in place, as the clouds before her split apart. The head of the Celestial appeared in the sky. Erisham summoned them before him. He wants to judge based on the memories of 3 people. Is it worth sacrificing gods for human survival? After speaking, he transformed into a black hole, and took the 3 away. On the other side, the remaining 3 were on the Domo. They had not received any news from Cersei. At this moment, a portal appeared on the ship. Eros made his entrance. On Earth, Dane pulled out a box. Inside the box was a sword. At this moment, a mysterious voice echoed. The film and post-credits scenes came to a complete end here. Post-credits scene 1. There's not much to say. Thanos was also one of the Eternals, and he wiped out half of all life in the universe. In fact, he delayed the Celestial emergence, because he was concerned about resources. He was indifferent to the Celestial emergence. His brother's clothing resembled the battle suits of the Eternals. It is expected to make an appearance in future episodes. Post-credits scene 2. That sword is the Ebony Blade. Dane is destined to become the Black Knight, and the voice that sounded was Blade. Marvel is preparing to expand the story in the UK. The film deserves high marks for its visual effects, but the plot had some shortcomings. It's surprising that the Celestial group would slay a Celestial, as if Tiamat was killed off by the plot. The casting was quite good, and the performances of the leads matched their characters well. However, Gilgamesh died midway through the film. It's surprising that the Eternals is part of Marvel's Phase 4 films. It connects to the new worldview of Marvel that follows. The film presents a larger universe than the previous worldview, the Celestial Group, the Eternals, and the multiverse. Some superhero events within the past decade. In the new worldview, even a few shots depict this. We look forward to Marvel's future films, bringing us even greater surprises. Alright, the video ends here. If you enjoyed my commentary, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is the greatest encouragement for me.